Okay. Hello. So, I'm not sure what's going to come out in the cards, and it feels like it's been a while since I've recorded a tarot video. It really hasn't. I recorded a video like 2 days ago, I think. But, hello. Hope you're doing well. Hope that you are, staying hydrated and taking care of yourself. Once again, not sure what's going to come out. I'm supposed to take notes on this. And so if I don't take notes on it now, I'll come back and take notes afterwards. But I'm gonna try to take notes. So if I were to tune in, if we were to take a deep breath, where is the current energy? What is the energy that we embody right now in this moment? I haven't turned anything over yet, but and then as I say that I turn it over, one of the cards that we have is the Four of Wands here. We have the Four of Wands, the Five of Wands, the Emperor, and the Judgment card. So intuitively, I'm hearing something about people pleasing, and I was talking about people pleasing earlier in a video on TikTok, and someone had commented. I got a couple comments that were really thought provoking, but I want to say there's a big difference between how do I say this? Whoever this is for, because, okay, I haven't been saying it, but this isn't going to be 110% for everybody who's here, but it is timeless. So whenever you're watching this, if it's helpful for you, it's helpful for you. There's a difference. I'm trying to find the words to say it. Because generally just being quote unquote nice isn't a bad thing. But I think it can be necessary for one to consider their intentions for being nice. Does that make sense? Because people pleasing at its core is really about self-preservation. It's really about meeting the needs of others so that we can get our needs met. And it's not a bad thing, but it can definitely help to be aware of this. And so I'm gonna say that and just consider, have you consider that. Are you being nice to people because you genuinely want to be nice to people, or because you want to have a good reputation? You know what I mean? There's no right or wrong answer, but just something to consider. Because depending on your intention, you will get a different result. We have the Emperor and the Judgment card, and so there's this energy of someone who is taking control of their life, taking control of their narrative. And this is gonna look different for everyone, obviously. But one thing I feel, one thing I see is the image of someone who is kind of just fed up with the way that things are going in their life. And good for you for making a change and wanting to do better, but also I want you to consider all of the things that you have to be grateful for. I know that sounds really cheesy, or that sometimes can be really annoying, but genuinely take stock of your journey and where you've been and like what you've overcome, because I feel like you're in an energy where you are kind of like I get the idea of someone who is like very goal oriented, someone who is just like, I need to do this thing, and once I do that thing, now we're gonna do another thing, and we're gonna do another thing, and it's like that's cool, but like remember to slow down and like celebrate and like appreciate where you've come. I was actually telling a friend earlier this week, shout out to Paul if you happen to be watching this. I was telling him, I showed him a video, like a tarot video that I did, and within it I was talking about like celebrating ourselves. And sorry to use you as an example if you happen to be watching this, but I feel like it's generally a big thing amongst individuals, amongst humans, for us to just not like acknowledge, our accomplishments. We just kind of like, oh, I got a job, cool. Oh, I got a car, oh, cool. Oh, I did this thing, like, and it's like, no, but like these are big things. Like some people don't have the privilege, don't have the access to like even get a job, like, which is kind of difficult to say, but like some people genuinely have like such a hard time getting a job, like you wouldn't imagine. Like some people don't have identification, so they can't, or they don't have like an address. So it's like if you notice, most job applications, they have a spot for like address, like where do you live, and like that's a pretty big thing. What is this card? We have the Page of Wands coming out. I feel like whoever I'm talking to, this is either you or someone else, but there's a lot of passionate energy. There's someone who's very full of passion, very full of zest, if you will. And some of these cards actually came out last time I did a reading. The Four of Wands, the Five of Wands, the Emperor, which is all fire energy, by the way. We have Aries energy, Leo, Sag. It doesn't really matter what your sign is, but there's a lot of passion. There's a lot of upbeat energy. Oh, am I using the cards upside down? I'm not using the cards upside down, but we have the High Priestess in reverse. Whoever I'm talking to, I feel like there might be a slight disconnect from your intuitive knowing. I feel like there's something where like that's kind of what I feel like. There's a disconnect from like your intuitive knowing for whatever reason. And we have the Five of Cups in reverse, which I'm kind of getting that this is a response to some sort of trauma, which is understandable, but just something to be aware of, like the way in which you are negatively impacted by past trauma, basically what I'm getting at. We have the Judgment card again, and as well we have the Ten of Coins, Ten of Pentacles, as I split the deck. I am being called to like talk about like money and whatnot, and back to the people pleasing thing. I feel like there's been something around like giving too much or like being too accessible to, and as I said in a previous thing that I just wrote about letting go, it's totally up to you whether or not you are okay with something. Like, don't let some stranger on the internet tell you, like, oh, I need to, like, cut this person off out of my life. I need to, like, etc., because it's your life. Like, you're the one who has to live with your choices. You know what I mean? And so, that being said, um, there might be someone or something that is draining you of your resources, and you might want to consider, tending to that. Like, whether you set boundaries, whether you walk away completely, whether you, like, whatever it is that you want to do about that. You know what I mean? What's to be said about this judgment card? Because it did come out twice, technically. I'm gonna Infinite Spirit, beloved. What's this judgment card? We have the Hangman. The Hangman, the Ace of Cups. Oh, and then the Queen of Swords. That's interesting. I feel like there's different ways to interpret anything, obviously, but one thing that I'm feeling, one thing that I'm seeing, sorry, I'm taking notes. One thing that I'm seeing is like a new love interest, a new romantic interest. I want to pull more on the Ace of Cups, please, if you could. It might be something that you actually don't really expect. And it might be something that comes from, like, an inconvenience. Like, let's say you have to wait for your medication or something. 12:12 on the timer for confirmation. Like, let's say, for example, you have to wait for your medication, and in that wait, you meet somebody that you wouldn't have met if you didn't have to wait for it. You know what I mean? 6, 7, 8. We have the 8 of Cups, and the Ace of Cups making 9 of Cups. This is like a wish fulfillment. This is a wish come true, if you will. And I think it's really necessary that you how do I say this? We have the 10 of Pentacles coming back up at the top of the deck. I did just have a lot of salt, so it could also be that, but I'm like feeling very lethargic. And there's something to be said about what you consume, because what we consume is what we become, what we consume is what we like, you know? And so consider the sorts of media that you're watching, that you're consuming. Once again with the High Priestess in reverse, because I don't have this in reverse. And somehow we had that in reverse, so I have to imagine that that was like the universe being like, hey, no, put this in reverse, this is reverse. You were disconnected. Disconnected from your intuition, disconnected from your goddess energy, or like God energy, whatever you identify as. We have the devil. Literally as I say that, we have the juxtaposition to the God energy, the devil. You might have been like really lustful, or like really like geared towards your like lower energy centers, you know, like the solar plexus, the root center, the root chakra, excuse me. I know I've been like, personally I've been teetering back and forth between like doing chakra work and like not doing chakra work. I definitely find it very helpful, like whenever I'm like super like aware of my chakras, like life is just amazing. Um, like even when like I talked about being homeless before, like even when I was like homeless, like when I woke up in the morning and I made sure to like tend to my energy centers, guaranteed the day was like beautiful. Like even if shit happened, I was like always like prepared to like deal with it, you know. But I say all that to say that if you feel as though a certain part of your life is like not really flowing, like you're kind of feeling stagnant, I would definitely urge you to look within, you know, check your energy centers. If you don't know what sorry, one second. If you don't know, I'm multitasking. I don't usually take notes for these when I'm making the videos, but I'm gonna put a link, at least one link, to some videos that talk about the chakra system and whatnot, because I could go into depth about that, but I don't know if I really. This isn't really supposed to be that sort of video, but like we could go through the chakra system. There's 7 base chakras, and technically it's pronounced chakras. I'm like mispronouncing, but there's 7 main points. Depending on who you ask, there could be more, like up to I think 32, I believe, or like 100 or something like that. And we have the root chakra, which is basically at the bottom, at the base of your spine, and it is red. It is associated with the color red, and it is about stability and like feeling grounded, feeling like, you know, centered and whatnot. Then we have the solar plexus, which is associated with yellow, I believe, or like orange yellow, and it is basically like the core. It is, you know, where our creativity comes from, our vitality, our health, and all that. That is where that is. And then we have the heart, which is associated with green, and it is associated with emotions and the heart center. I always, every time I talk about the heart center lately, I'm like, my analytical mind comes in and I'm like, well, technically, it comes from the mind, but in terms of like the spiritual body, like it is the heart. And when the heart is flowing freely, you know, love flows freely, all that stuff. And then we have the throat, which allows us to communicate. And that is a very vital one. All of them are vital. Like having one out of balance can definitely fuck up the rest of the chakra points. But like each one is crucial in its own way. With the throat, once again, it's communication. It's like if it's blocked, then you have a hard time communicating, have a hard time expressing, which is not good for many reasons, because that is how we, you know, exchange information and whatnot. And then we have this guy up here, the one that everybody knows, the third eye. Which is funny because it's the third eye, but it's technically the 6th point if you go up from the, like either way you go, it's not 3, but it's the third eye. It's either the 2nd point from down, or it's the 6th point from up, and it is what connects us to our intuition, our inner knowing. Like I mentioned before with the High Priestess in reverse, like if you're feeling disconnected from your intuition, if you're feeling like you don't really like have external divine guidance, like that would be the place to go. Same with the crown. The crown and the third eye kind of like serve as like similar energies, kind of, sort of, if you squint your eyes. You could argue about that, but in this moment I'm kind of realizing that like they kind of do the same thing. But yeah, the crown connects us to like the divine and like, you know, the unseen realm and higher realms of existence, etc., etc. And so if you're not connected with that, then you probably have a hard time like holding on to ideas or like creating ideas, and you probably have like disorganized thoughts and whatnot, you know what I mean? So those are the chakra points. I didn't really need to go through that, but like, if you needed that, then there you go. Once again, I don't know. I feel like I'm trying to say this in the right way. I feel like a lot of information is kind of universal when you're like dealing with like self-help and self-improvement videos, but at the same time we all move at our own pace, and I think that's why it's important for me to say, like, you know, this video might not be for everybody, because not everybody's in the space where like they're receptive to changing their lives. You know, like when I was talking to my friend Paul, his name is Paul, by the way. Paul, if you're watching this, I love you. But you do make me reflect quite a lot. When I was telling him about, you know, having faith and like trusting in the process and all that good stuff, like there was a lot of resistance, and it's like that's how you know somebody isn't really like ready for certain information. If they're just instantly resistant, they're like, okay, but like that's not gonna work because, and I don't mean to like oh my god, if you happen to watch this, like, please don't take it personal that I'm like mocking you. It's but that is kind of how it like came off when I was like suggesting certain ideas to him. He was just like, well, that's not gonna work because it's illegal to do that, or like you can't really do that. And it's like, okay, but like what could we do? You know, it's like the sort of my sort of thing. It's like, okay, you know what you can't do, but what can you do? You know what I mean? Like for me, I can make a list of things that I don't want to do, that I'm not going to do, but it's like, okay, that's not important. What are we going to do though? I'm making this video. I'm writing this article. Like I'm doing this. Like, you know, what are we doing? Like, fuck what we can't do. Like, what could you do? And that might be the sort of energy somebody's in right now, where they're like feeling sort of motivated but not really, and they're like trying to figure out ways to move forward. And it's like, focus on what you can do, focus on what is possible versus like what isn't possible. Like, you might not be able to travel as much as you want to, but like the internet allows us to travel like instantaneously. So it's like, what can you do? You know what I mean? Think outside the box. We have the Four of Swords here. For some of you, you might be feeling, and I feel like this is terrible advice, but like, you might be feeling more inclined to rest. And I would definitely urge you to do that if you can. Like, if you have free time, I would definitely urge you to rest, because you can disagree, but like rest really does serve as work, like in a lot of ways. Like, especially if you're doing a lot of like deep healing work. This might not be for everybody. This isn't for everybody. Like, I don't know exactly what kind of people are going to be watching this, but like, everything takes work. Everything takes effort. Like, spiritual work, physical work, like whatever. And so if you're not getting rest, you're not allowing your body to like properly refresh. You know what I mean? As well as the mind, because the mind needs to rest as well. I've talked about it on here before also, excuse me, but there's so many different types of rest, like, you know, spiritual rest, physical rest, mental rest, emotional rest, and it all looks different, you know. For example, if spiritual rest could look like listening to gospel music, or going out of your way to like be giving to someone, or something, you know, something that like really lights your spirit on fire, you know what I mean? I really do get the idea that somebody here is finding new love very, very shortly. And Obviously, if you don't want that, that's understandable, and you're probably not going to find it, and that's okay. But for the majority, I feel like you've been asking for like something or someone, and it's definitely coming to you shortly. But it does require you to be open to it. Which I say obviously, but like once again, I think the idea of common sense is so like disableist or ableist, because it's like we're not all raised the same. We don't all have the same experiences, and so to expect another person to like look at things the same way that you do is kind of like it's kind of like entitled. It's like it's self-centered. It's like, oh, I think like this, so everybody should think like this, and it's like that's not how it works. Because if it did work like that, you know what wouldn't have happened? And this is an extreme, but like World War II wouldn't have happened. Like we wouldn't have had a Hitler if everybody like knew the same. Like if everybody, you know, because fun fact, Hitler was actually rejected from art school, and that was one of the reasons why he became like the Hitler that we know, because he was rejected twice from art school, and so he took that pain, he took that rejection, and basically was like, okay, I'm gonna go to politics. I'm gonna like fuck up everything. I'm gonna like, and like once again, common sense would tell a person maybe don't enforce policies that like kill people at random, you know, like, but whatever was going on in his head is what was going on in his head, and we don't justify it, but we can at least sympathize and say that don't be a Hitler. Don't be a person who turns rejection, who turns like negative emotions into like pain for others, like because you wouldn't want someone to do that to you, right? It's like the golden rule is basically what we're boiling down to. Treat others how you want to be treated. If I can get through my manic thoughts. I actually was talking about this in a couple TikToks recently, where I was just like, some people, the way that we, and like I'm saying it non-judgmentally, like somebody commented, they were like, they explained, and I was like, I already knew that, but thanks for explaining, I guess. But they explained that, you know, the way that we see the world is based off of like childhood and whatnot. And in that video, I was basically like, some people have such a twisted sense of like the L word, and it can be very necessary to be careful about who we like attach that word to, because ideally unconditional love is like, you know, unconditional, like everybody, you know, even your worst enemy, you still hold love for them, ideally. But especially for my people who are like dealing with people pleasing and like, you know, taking control of your own like narrative, it is really necessary that you don't bend too far to the will of others. Because believe it or not, you can't really allow anybody to, how do I say this? Nobody can like force you to do anything that you don't allow. And I mean that on every level, like, and that might be controversial, but like, this might be very controversial. Like, I can feel somebody being like, "What? What do you mean?" Like, if you're walking down the street and you get robbed, literally that only happened because you allowed it on some level. Once again, I know that sounds very controversial, but like, as a person who is like, how do I say this? I feel as though I'm very attuned to the energy field and like the unseen realm, and so I spend a lot of time in my head, like focused on like external energies, if that makes sense. And so I know how important it is to like visualize and to like, you know, be intentional about your energy. And so once again, if you're being intentional about your energy, if you're being intentional about your attention and where your awareness is going, it's impossible to be like in that sort of situation. You know what I mean? Like, and if you do get in that situation, like, you have the ability to, like, control it. You know what I mean? And I think sometimes it gets very easy to forget this and to allow people to, like, do whatever the fuck. And that's understandable, but, like, here's your reminder. That you do have control over your reality, and, like, you shouldn't allow... Oh my god, that was amazing. That was the timing of that. I'm sorry to fangirl. I'm listening to affirmations, by the way. There's affirmations playing in my head. As I said the word allow, she was also like, I allow. And it was like, yes. I allow money and whatnot into my life, is what she said. Sorry to fangirl, but I do get excited about that sometimes. I appreciate that. You didn't have to, like... I'm sorry, one of my roommates was, like, moving around at school. I feel like he was trying to be, like, considerate of me recording, and it was, like... I felt awkward about it. I was like, don't change your movements because of me. But I did appreciate that. That was very respectful. I'm sorry. I'm, like... I don't talk about it a lot publicly because of, like, the tarot thing. I feel like divination and addiction are definitely, like, things that should not be intertwined. Like, I've met people who used to do this and, like, have given it up completely because of addiction. And, like, because, how do I say this? The energy of addiction on a spiritual level is very dangerous. And when you're dealing with stuff like this, you have to be very careful. And as I'm saying that, I'm like, you know, I'm feeling the energy of that. I'm like, because, like, I used to do this so often. The biggest reason why I don't do this on TikTok anymore, if anybody's wondering, if anybody cares, is because I don't have a phone with good enough audio quality. That's literally the biggest reason. But I used to do that quite often, and occasionally I would have to, like, stop because I was, like, getting blasted. And it was just, like, interfering with, like, my connection. And so I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna not try because I'm not on that level right now. And I say all that to say because I am a little stoned right now. And a lot of the times when I'm doing these videos, I am stoned, or, like, I am, like, on another level. And I don't like to believe that it's impossible to have a relationship with the divine and, like, you know, be addicted or whatever, but, like, it definitely does, like, muddy the waters. And so that's something to be wary of. I don't know who needed to hear that. Somebody needed to hear that. Like, if you're dealing with divination and you also find yourself, like, with addictive personality, like, please be careful, because those energies do not mix, because you will get all sorts of energies coming through and trying to, like, influence you. And if your mental mind is not, like, sharp enough, like, you will experience some things. I remember, this isn't funny, but I do laugh about it when I think about it. I remember I applied for 7-Eleven. I tried to work at a 7-Eleven near me. It's not funny at all. Intuitively, it's funny because, like, the story of it, there was the manager there. She was doing tarot, and I was like, oh my god, is that a tarot deck? And she was like, yeah, that's a tarot deck. I've been learning and whatnot, and it's, like, it's been really cool, really awesome. And I was like, that's awesome. Can I you know, mess with your cards? Because, like, I wasn't doing tarot actively at that time. And so, like, I messed with her cards, and it was the Queen of Pentacles in reverse. I remember that. It's not funny. But somehow we were talking about it, and I told her that I had like 5 years of experience and whatnot, and how I had issues with like, trickster energies. You got to be careful about the trickster energies. And she basically was like, she responded with, well, that shouldn't be an issue if you're speaking with the divine. Like, there, nothing can like. It's not funny. But she was like, if you make it clear that you're talking to the divine, well, that's not basically what she said, but like, that's how one could like boil down what she said. Like, if you're talking to the divine, then you're talking to the divine. But like, in my experience, I know it's very easy to be tricked. Like, one of my first experiences with the other side was with a trickster energy. Like, I remember I was like messing with the clairaudience stuff, and like, so I was getting messages through music, but like, some of the messages were like, "You're gonna die," and shit, and I was like, "What the fuck?" And like, knowing what I know now, I understand that it was a trickster energy. But back then, I was like, "What did I do? Why am I like being like? Why are you upset at me, universe?" But that happened. That was like a psychosis moment. But back to like back to the second story. She said that she was like, if you're, you can't be confused, like, because the divine is divine. Nothing can pretend to be divine. And I was like, in my head, I was like, that's not really true. Like, it's very easy to be tricked. And I wish I would have said something along the lines of that to her. Maybe that would have been helpful. I don't know. But she said that, and she said it with so much confidence, knowing that she's like still learning and whatnot, and that's cool. That's dandy. Like, no judgment. But I was just like, no, but that's not true at all. And I remember leaving the store, and I was like, I wasn't really thinking too much about it. But like, over time, I kind of came back to the idea, like, I didn't get hired. She didn't hire me. Like, she said she was gonna call me back. She never called me back, and it was like, I kept seeing her. Like, we talked. It was like a very friendly sort of back and forth. But I remember thinking, because I stopped seeing her car, and she stopped being in the store when I showed up. And so I remember thinking to myself, I was like, what if she got fired? What if she had like a psychotic breakdown because of those trickster energies? It's not funny. I feel like the tricksters, like, that's where I'm like laughing at. Because they be doing some shit, and it's like, okay, just leave me. No, I'm kidding. But like, yeah, and then eventually I heard that she got like she like wasn't working there anymore. I don't know if she got fired. I don't know what story. I don't know what actually happened. But like, in my head, intuitively, I'm just like, she had a mental breakdown, and she had to leave, because that's a lot of the times what happens when you're dealing with like, certain energies within the cards, and it's a risk that you have to take. Like, you have to be willing to like understand that sometimes you are going to be misled, or you're going to be like misguided. And so it's very important to have a good sense of intuition. Also, excuse me, that was a nasty burp. But yeah, it's really important to have a good sense of like intuition. Like, discernment is so important. It's basically the moral of that story, I guess. I don't know. I feel like also the trickster in me is like, it finds it hilarious, because I'm just like, you said that with so much confidence, and it's like, that's not how that works. Like, so many people get tricked, and like, no. But having a clear language does help, I will say. It does help to like know who you're talking to. But yeah, because otherwise we will be misled. But I'm gonna actually pull from one of the oracle decks, because I haven't been. This is gonna be a longer video, by the way. I don't know when's the last time I don't think I've ever really recorded a video this long. But if you find this helpful, if you find this useful, make sure to smash that like button. No, I'm kidding. But like, if you should engage with the video if you find this useful or entertaining or whatever, because it definitely helps me out. Also, at some point, I'm gonna have to put my phone on the charger because it is on like 15%. Okay. What's going on with... Ooh, I love that. Okay, so back to the Emperor energy. We have Princess, number 1. You can be your own knight. Oh, wow. This is like... Okay, I love that these cards came out. Because this is like telling a perfect story. We have number 14. Thorns. Weave together the crown you deserve. And then also Evil Queen, you deserve sugar, not salt. Number 2. And it's basically telling me of someone who... Back to the Emperor energy, who is recognizing just how much control they have over their life. Because we do. We have a lot of control over our lives. Like, every decision we make, every choice that we make, every, pathway that we go down, it is necessary to, like, take sovereignty of that and, like, recognize, like, just how much influence you have over your own life. And I feel like specifically this is somebody who is realizing, and this might sound cheesy to some of you, but, like, somebody who is recognizing that they are worthy, they are deserving of good things. They're not really... It shouldn't be a norm to receive... How do I say this? It shouldn't be a norm to be, like, criticized constantly. It shouldn't be a norm to be, like, berated by your friends. Like, ideally, you want your friends to be, like, your support, Like, to be there for you and to be, like, good for you and whatnot. But somebody's realizing that maybe they don't have the best friends, they don't have the best influences around them. And like I said before, like, watching the media that you consume, like, being aware of, like, what you're consuming into your mental can be very necessary. And once again, I'm going to say, like, there's a time and a space. We all go at our own pace. I didn't mean to rhyme there, but there you go. And so if you're not ready to, like, take that leap and, like, do that, because it is a lot of work, it is a lot of maintenance to, like, be aware of your mental, like, I remember, once again, when I was homeless, that was, like, the peak of my, my self-control when it comes to, like, my mind, like, myself, because I was just, like, constantly tuned in to my mind. I was, like, and I'm trying to get back to that. Maybe I shouldn't be saying that, maybe, because evil eye is a thing, but, like, I don't give a fuck. Whoever watches this, your energy does not, like, thank you for your energy, actually, thank you. But, like, and that's what I mean, also, like, recognizing, like, I was actually watching a video on generational curses recently, and the dude was saying that, like, nobody can influence your life unless you let them. Like, nobody can control your life unless you allow them to. And so, once again, if you're walking down the street and you happen to get robbed, on some level, you were vulnerable enough to let that happen. Sounds controversial, sounds victim blaming, but, like, you can't take sovereignty over your life and not recognize that you, like, create trouble for yourself. You know what I mean? Like, you either have sovereignty or you don't. Like, sure, there might be a gray area, but, like, we don't really look at the gray area because you want to have sovereignty over your life. You want to have control over your life. Like, I know personally, another way I could explain this is, like, me personally, I don't like getting into fights. I don't like the idea of, like, having to, like, like, at all. Never. That's not something that I, like, even entertain because energetically I'm just like, no. No. And so that extends to, like, my friends. Like, if I'm around somebody who is, like, more, like, temperamental and they're about to get, like, I tune into my mind and I'm like, no, we need to, like, separate these energies because, like, I don't want to witness this. I don't want to be a part of this. We don't need that drama. And like I don't usually like talk about it, but like it is just something that's in the back of my, like, you know, I know it. I know how much energy I'm putting out into a situation. And the last time I was with someone and they almost got into a fight, that's what I was doing. Like I was just like mentally just like, no, we need to dissipate this. Because who has time for that? Who has the patience for that? Not me. Personally, you might. That's cool, but not me. Um, and that's just an example of like how one can like take control of the energy field. You know, I usually do it for other people more so. Like I'm doing it like selflessly, and I was meditating on this the other day, like I. And maybe this is inaccurate, maybe this is like just a people pleasing sort of thing, but like I do feel like on some level, like magic and like, you know, mental manipulation works better when you're doing it for other people and not just for yourself, you know what I mean? Because I realized that. I was like, 9 times out of 10, I'm using like my energy, my abilities for the sake of other people. You know, very selfishly. I'm like, I hope they're having a nice day. I hope that, like, you know, their foot heals, or like, I hope that, etc., etc. You know, and that's where my energy goes a lot of the time. But let's say the here nor there. That was kind of oversharing, I guess. This is gonna be, I don't know what I'm gonna title this. But yeah. And some of you might be getting a lot into like ancestral stuff, and it's really important. Like when you get into ancestral stuff, you get like, it opens up a whole nother world. And it, once again, like, keep in mind that you don't like have to accept anything that you don't want to. Like you don't have to accept any beliefs or like ideas if you don't want to. Like, might sound woo woo, might sound esoteric. I feel like a lot of this video is like very esoteric. But like, yeah. We have gray. Endings are inevitable. Is that the universe's way of telling me that I should end this video? This has been a long video. I'm not used to recording such long YouTube videos. But I hope this has been helpful. I hope this has been useful. I said youthful. Did you hear that? The train is starting to pass by too, as I'm like, okay. If you would like to work with me one-on-one, if you would like to have a personalized reading done, I didn't mean to rhyme, but here we are. Check out the links below. My email should be somewhere within. You can also join me on Patreon. Check me out for once a week. Or not once a week, I said once a week. I post at least once a week, but usually I end up posting like a few times a week. So if you're interested in that, I actually have a post about letting go coming soon. I'm not sure when I'm going to post this video. This video might get posted next month for all I know. But there is a video about letting go that I recorded, and so I might try to like maneuver linking in that. I don't know how that's gonna work. We're gonna figure it out. But like, if you want to check that out, check that out. If not, no hard feelings. I thank you for being here. I thank you for your attention, and I hope you know that you are loved and worthy of love. Okay, bye.